I love that today's daily word and the statement that you, Brother Bob, reread is about the power to be free. And it just reminds me of how great it is to exercise uh, an attitude of gratitude as a way for me to be free, free of disappointments in life, free of a feeling of dread, free of any feeling of oppression or suppression, just to keep practicing an attitude of gratitude and to keep remembering that what I have done does not define who I am. And in order for me to remember that about me, I have to remember that about you, that what you have done does not define who you are. We have had places, all of us in our life, where we have not lived up to our own expectations or the expectations of others. And this daily word reminds us that sometimes we can become confused by things that have been said or things that have been done, words that we have spoken, words that have been spoken to us, into taking on an identity that is less than the identity that we have been given as the divine creations of our Creator. It is so easy to forget in life and in the experiences of life sometimes that I am as God created me. I can begin to think that I am the effect of, once again, what I've done or failed to do, or the things that have been said to me or about me, or the things that I have spoken to me or about me and to others. I love our constant reminder that we can always begin again. We can always plant new seeds. We can always step forward into a greater and greater expression of the truth that sets us free, the knowledge of our divine creative self, the knowledge that we are the light of the world. We talked one of our unity principles that speaks about our essence. It's not speaking about our surface self. It's not saying I, the personality that bears my name, ... It is talking about my inherent self, my essential beingness. And my essential beingness and your essential beingness cannot be tarnished and cannot be touched by outer activities. And so I want to always remember about you that what you do is not who you are. What I do is not who I am. What I do changes. And this says, yes, sometimes I fall prey to erroneous misconceptions, but I myself, who I am, remains as God created me. I'm a divine creation of the one creator, and nothing shall ever be able to separate me from the love of God. This does not mean that I have not had times of believing I have been separated from the love of God, because I certainly have had times in my life where I have forgotten who I am and whose I am. I've had times in my life where, if you listen to my confessions, they were all testaments to the fact that I was a victim of something that occurred, that I was the victim of certain circumstances, that I was the victim of certain policies. Never was it true, but it was my belief in that moment about myself. And those negating confessions that I made that spoke of how I'm victimized by what is happening, or by what did happen, or by what didn't happen that I needed to happen. But these all give rise, as the unity principle said, they give rise to my experience of life. But I cannot change and I can't alter the life that I am. The entire life that I am is a God-created life. I am eternal. I am immortal. I am forever. I am always. I am the love of God. Once more, I have not always believed that or remembered that, and therefore I've had times of not demonstrating that. That's why it's so wonderful for me to get together with brothers and sisters like you all, who gather together to remember the truth that sets us free. We are not a group that gathers together to complain about what's going on in the world or to rail against what is. We have come together as a group of God's children to remember that we are God's children and to remember that the power that God has is ours. We are here to deepen our understanding of some of the confessions that we make so that they are more and more not just something knowing and believing, but something that we are activating. I am actively growing by leaps and bounds to know that wherever I am, God is, and all is well. I am growing to really deepen my capacity to actively be the light of God, the love of God, the power of God, the presence of God. And so it's never over. And I'm never stuck being who I am expressing as at any given moment. Every moment offers me an opportunity to recreate myself anew in the next grander version of the greatest vision I have ever held of who it is possible for Carlos Wayne Anderson to be as a child of God. We're in a season that I love. I just love the season of resurrection. It is, of course, the season of Easter, where we acknowledge the death and the resurrection of Jesus, who reminds us of the death and resurrection of our own selves, reminds us that we too will always rise from the appearance of death. And it is so wonderful to me that the whole Easter reminder about resurrection and what is death and what is resurrection? Well, the whole Easter story is that death is a temporary appearance. It is not an actual thing. It is an appearance of death. I think you and I will both remember that when Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus saying that Lazarus is on the point of death, he is at the point of death. You need to stop whatever you're doing and you need to rush home because you need to save your cousin. You need to save our brother. He's barely hanging in there. If you could scurry home and heal him, please, that would be awesome. Now we read the story and we know that he didn't even scurry home. He just kept hanging out where he was hanging out, doing what he was doing. He was doing some healing. He was doing some good stuff. But what he clearly was not doing was rushing home to make sure that Lazarus did not die. In fact, he wanted to wait until Lazarus appeared to be dead so that he could demonstrate the power of God to raise us up from the appearance of death into new life. When he got home and they said, "You're too late, bro. I don't know why you didn't get here sooner." A couple of the disciples say that you were in no rush. I do not get it. I think it's kind of, I don't know. I don't think it's godly that you would wait till your cousin died, that you would wait till our brother died, and now you're going to show up as though nothing's wrong. And Jesus says, not dead, only sleeping. Wow. I have had a half dozen times in my 70, almost 4 years of living life where I just knew I was dead. Not physically, emotionally, spiritually. I had no joy, none at all, about breathing and having my heart beating. The sound of the birds and all of their trills and tones could not thrill me at all. There was nowhere that I could go on the planet. I would go into the fields. I would go into the woods. I would go sit by a stream. I would go to all the places that I hope would excite me to feeling alive again. And wherever I would go, try as I might, with whatever expectation I brought with me, for whatever reason, I could not feel the spark of life or an excitement to go on. I thought I was dead. But as Jesus said, not dead, only sleeping. I look back and I think of these periods where I sure enough felt like I was dead inside. Not dead, just little naps, taking a little nap and thinking I'm dead. Well, this resurrection season, it happens at a wonderful time for us who live in territories of the world, of the country, that have a series of seasons that come with them. Because as we're speaking on Easter time about rebirth, oh my God, New England is showing off with proofs of rebirth and resurrection. It was such a wonderful thing for me to be able to look out at my yard no longer than a month or two ago. And sure enough, it looked dead. But I could smile and know, not dead, only sleeping. And I could, even though it was appearing to be dead, I smiled inside because I knew what was coming. Spring is on the way. And these little rascals that appear to be dead are going to spring to new, green, living life. And I told you before, I never do gardening without tending to and tending the garden of my mind at the same time. And so it's wonderful and beautiful for me to know that I have always resurrected after a winter sleep. It's beautiful for me to know, even when I am going through something that appears to be the dark night of the soul, that I'm not going to be stuck there. I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of another foot in front of another foot, marching on, even to the appearance of the valley of death. Because there is no death, only sleeping. And the rise will come in the morning, and it will bring joy to me. I love four-season living so much. I lived for several years in Florida, and I remember when I moved to Florida, oh my God, I was so excited. Eternal summer, no more winters, no more falls, eternal summer. Oh my God, a wide, numberless array of tropical plants all the time, every day throughout the year. I thought I was going to love it. No more snow, no more perennials looking like they're dead for 4 months out of my year. And then I have to wait for them to start. Oh, no, baby, Florida, everything in bloom all the time. I thought I was going to be so happy. And for half a season, I was. And then something was missing. To constantly have flowers in bloom wasn't as exciting to me. It wasn't as joyful to me. It didn't bring me the same thrill. I mean, they're always here. They're always in bloom. They're always giving off their perfume. You know, too much of anything can become boring to Carlos Wayne Anderson. And so the next thing I know, after being in Florida, me and Johnny Earl said, we have got to get to New England or Seattle or somewhere. We have got to go to New England where we can get some cold and get some snow and be shivering and putting on boots, because this always the same thing does not provide a thrill. There's a thrill to me living in the Four Seasons of New England. I actually love knowing in the fall, as trees are losing their leaves, I love knowing we're going into a winter season of sleep, because it sure makes the wake up in the spring a great big deal. I think that clearly we have talked before that life cannot be a flatline experience. I mean, some of us are very clear. I'm glad it can't be a flatline experience or in the unfun stuff. But even if it's a flatline experience in the exciting and wonderful stuff, if it does not have some kind of up and down motion to it, it loses its thrill. My granddaughter, when she was a toddler, we would have shrimp perhaps once every 2 weeks. And she was a shrimp fanatic. Oh my God. If she found out we were having shrimp, or she walked into the kitchen and saw some shrimp we're cooking, any kind of shrimp, it's like from Forrest Gump. It could be fried shrimp, boiled shrimp, it could be raw shrimp, it could be shrimp dipped, it could be whatever kind of shrimp. That girl loved her some shrimp. And so once every 2 weeks or so, when we had shrimp, she was, and she was so excited about it. And she savored every bite of shrimp. At one point, we said to ourselves, since this girl loves shrimp so much, why do we only have it once or, twice a month? I mean, shrimp ain't that expensive. Shrimp don't have to be saved for a holiday or a special occasion or a party. So let's just start having shrimp a couple of times a week rather than a couple of times a month. And we did. And when we told Sahar, we are going to start having shrimp twice a week for you, girl, she was so happy. She was in heaven. At the end of 1 month, she wasn't finishing her shrimp. She wasn't asking for more. Sometimes she didn't want any at all. And it got to a point where when she came into the kitchen and saw we were having shrimp again, she would go, "Oh, shrimp again? I thought you loved shrimp." She said, "I loved shrimp when I didn't have it all the time." That's how I felt about living in Florida. I love summer, but I don't want to have it all the time. I like the variety that life brings. And so when I look at my own life, I realize that those periods where I felt dead, I was only sleeping. And to me, the only good thing about a depression is coming out of one. The only good thing about being judgmental is dropping the rock. The only good thing about forgetting who I am and whose I am is remembering it again. Yes, for me, many things are a case of absence, makes the heart grow fonder. And so I know that my moments of forgetting have not been a mistake. They have been on purpose. I think about you and I, all of us, who are the prodigal children, who left home on purpose to have a moment of experiencing what would it be like? What would it be like to be outside of my Father's house, to have an opportunity to do it on my own, where I didn't have to keep my trust in God. I could learn to trust in me. The only thing good about the prodigal making the journey away from home was the discovery that I learned what I needed to learn. I discovered what I needed to discover. What is that? I am in the fullness of joy, safety, peace, love, and satisfaction when I am in my Father's house. And so he arose and came to himself. You arose and came to yourself. I arose and came to myself and said, let me return to my Father's house. Getting home. There are no words to describe the exquisite joy of returning to my Father's house, to the consciousness of I am is God within me, to the consciousness of knowing that wherever I am, God is and all is well. The good thing about the prodigal's journey was the coming home. Before he left home, everything was cool. Yeah, this is cool. I have everything I need. All my needs are provided. I'm taken care of. This is cool. But when he returned, it was way more than this is cool. It was, this is awesome. Sometimes losing things for a while makes having those things sweeter when we recover them. I love New England. I love New England. I love the period of sleep because it sure makes the period of awakening to the green pushing through the hard-packed darkness of the earth, seeking the light. It's a sweet reminder for me, Carlos Wayne Anderson, of all the hard-packed earth I have pushed my way through in the living of my years, the losses of so many loved ones, the health scares, the financial difficulties, the moments of being confused. It makes waking up again so much sweeter. We stopped having shrimp for a couple to 3 months. We never brought it into the house again for 2 or 3 months. And one day, we brought some in after 2 or 3 months. And that little girl, when she came into the kitchen, had returned to the fullness of her delight. Shrimp! Finally! This is how life is, brothers and sisters. This is why we are not living a flat line. This is why not every single one of our moments is a moment of, oh, bliss. Everything is just as it should be. Woo. No challenges going on physically, none going on relationally, none going on financially, no challenges in any way. Woo, this is cool. The reason why that does not last without a pause or without a blip is because it would be like having shrimp all the time, every day. Breakfast, shrimp, lunch, shrimp, dinner, shrimp, late night snack, shrimp. Or me being in Florida, where every season was summer. And I love summer, but when every season is summer, it's a bummer. Give me New England. Give my life what New England offers. Seasons. To everything, there is a season. Let me enjoy my seasons of dancing and singing. And let me also enjoy my seasons of resting and retiring. It is the variety of life that makes it sweet to me. I want to remind you, as I always do this time of year, because I want to remind myself. And when I remind you, I am reminded more deeply for me. You are a perennial. You are not an annual. If you appear to be dead in any way, you are not. Only sleeping. Do you know that I had some annuals planted in my yard? Some in large containers and some in the ground. And do you know what I need to know about those? They won't be coming back. Perennials come back. I can lay hands on those annuals that are dead out there. I can pray for them. I can speak in tongues. I can anoint them with holy oil. I can sprinkle them with baptismal water. They're not coming back. They were one season plants. But I don't have to pray over my perennials. I don't have to read them scriptures. I don't have to sprinkle them with baptismal water or anoint them with holy oil. I don't have to get them to attend Unity and learn the principles or learn the basics of A Course in Miracles. I don't have to talk to them about Jesus or the power of the resurrection. They're living it. You are a perennial. Don't ever fall prey to thinking you're an annual. Only sleeping. And the great thing about sleeping, waking up. Awake, we who sleep, and arise from the dead. And Christ mind consciousness will give us life. Yea, God.